I truly believe that's why I have the drive I have today, is maybe because I had a twin brother. I'm not sure how old we were, maybe 6 or 7. I remember very vividly my dad came home with a baseball glove for my brother. And I was like, where's mine? And I threw a fit. I was like, I wanted a glove too. And my mom, she was on my side. She made him run out and get me a glove. And then I remember us in the backyard, and my dad was like whipping this ball at my brother, like, hard. And then he threw it to me kind of lopsided. Like this easy
he
toss.
lobbed it too, right?
And I remember, like, what is this? So I picked that ball up and whipped it back at him, and I think I caught everybody off guard. And
That's awesome.
Benztown president Dave Chachi Dennis loves radio and all of his radio friends.
Hey, Chachi.
Hey, everybody.
Because Chachi loves everybody.
My next guest, so excited to have her on, Jackie Parks. She's the president and CEO of EnvisionWise and Pivot Radio. They provide online digital products, including custom dynamic websites, Alexa skills, text messaging services, and numerous revenue-generating products for local businesses and radio stations across the country. Throughout her 20-year career, Jackie has built thousands of websites for an untold number of clients, many of whom have been clients for the life of the business. Jackie, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Hi, Chachi. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
It's good to see you. Jackie is joining us from Champaign, Illinois. Did you grow up there in Champaign?
I did. A little town south of here called Tolono, Illinois. We only had about 2,000 people. I think it's up to maybe 3,500 now, but a small town just south of here.
What did your parents do in Tolona?
Tolono.
Oh, Tolono. Sorry. What did your parents do in Tolono?
Well, they didn't really do something there. My mom worked for the University of Illinois, which is right here in Champaign. And my dad, he was a laborer, worked for the union, physical labor. He pretty much did that from day one. He got to retire early. My mom worked a little bit later because initially she had twins, my brother and I, and it was hard to work. So she had a daycare when we first started out, and she did that. And then as we got older and got into school, then she started working, and she did several different jobs, and then kind of landed at the U of I, which was a really great job for her, and she enjoyed it, met a lot of great people, and she worked there, I think, over 20 years, and then finally got to retire too. So they're both living the retired life.
Oh, good for them. And are they still in Tolono?
They are in Savoy, which is where our office is. It's also south of Champaign. We're right on the line where the EnvisionWise office is. It's in Savoy, and they are located there as well.
Oh, nice. So you're very close to family.
I am. I get to look out the window every now and then, and I see my dad doing a drive-by. I think he's wondering.
That's awesome.
I think he's wondering if I'm working half the time.
Checking up on you. What was it like having a twin? Do you have other siblings or just your twin brother?
It was just my brother and I.
Okay. Because I've got a very good friend of mine who has a twin brother, and he also has an older brother and a younger sister. But he said there was like a connection with him and his twin brother, unlike that of his other siblings. Like there's just this closeness, almost like they can hear each other's thoughts and know what each other's thinking. Did you feel like that too, growing up?
Absolutely not. To be honest, we were opposite in every way. We fought like cats and dogs until we were about 30. Everything was a competition. I truly believe that's why I have the drive I have today, is maybe because I had a twin brother. There was a moment, I'm not sure how old we were, maybe 6 or 7. I remember very vividly my dad came home with a baseball glove for my brother. And I was like, where's mine? And I threw a fit. I was like, I wanted a glove too. And my mom, she was on my side. She made him run out and get me a glove. And then I remember us in the backyard, and my dad was like whipping this ball at my brother, like, hard. And then he threw it to me kind of lopsided. like this easy
He
toss.
lobbed it too, right?
And I remember like, what is this? So I picked that ball up and whipped it back at him, and I think I caught everybody off guard. And
That's awesome.
I think I was. I just remember that moment so clearly, and I always had this drive in me to be, competitive, and my brother and I, everything was a competition. I mean, we played Nintendo for quarters. We played one-on-one basketball for money. Everything was like for money. We somehow scraped together change.
So I know where that entrepreneurial spirit comes from then. It sounds like at an early age you were competitive and you were revenue generated. Fill me in on your first gig, which was detasseling corn. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, I think, my parents were very... they said you want something, you got to earn it. So, as teenagers, it was something a lot of the small town kids did. There's a bus that came and picked everybody up, and it was really miserable, to be honest. I'm not much of a country girl, but detasseling, we would like pick the tassels off of the corn. I think it's so the plant can't pollinate itself. And
no kidding.
By doing that, I remember my arms.
Wait, is that excuse my ignorance, but is that like the husk of the corn? Is that what you're doing, or is that different?
It's like the very top piece. Like you pull it off, and then I think then the plant can't pollinate itself. And honestly, that's about all I know. We pulled those tops off as fast as we could, and tried to get to the end of a corn row.
And then you would like send the corn then down like a conveyor belt or something, or it would just into a barrel,
we just pull off the top and it would fly to the ground.
And then what would you do with the corn itself?
We just pull these tassels off, and that was it. It's called detasseling.
Detasseling, okay.
We didn't actually touch the corn part.
Got it. And did you do this like at a farm?
Yeah, there was a lot of farms. Like they just put all these kids on a bus and brought us to one lot after another lot, and we detassel, and it was really nuts.
How old were you?
I mean, I think 13 or 14.
Okay. So like after school, you guys would load into a bus, and then they would take you to go detassel corn.
It was a summer job. Yeah.
Got it.
And the reason, I remember it being miserable is because I played softball in the summer, and I was a catcher, and I would have all these cuts on my arms from all the corn leaves, and 90-degree weather, playing catcher and sweating.
Sure.
It would just sting, and
I bet
it really wasn't that great.
I bet. So you were pretty competitive, obviously, as you told me, with your brother, but then that carried on into softball. Did you play any other sports?
I did. I ran cross country. I ran track. I was in softball, basketball. Basketball was definitely my favorite. I really excelled in all the sports that I played as a kid. I was pretty lucky.
A lot of energy. That sounds like you were incredibly busy. Were you a good student?
Yes, I was a good student. A-B student. I wasn't perfect, but I was good. I was a lot better than my brother.
What did your brother do?
Oh, he did a lot of sports too. He was great in that way, but today he's a bricklayer. He kind of took after my dad and got into the union. It's very hard work. They work in all kinds of weather, and I think it's physically draining.
Sure.
I'm lucky. I get more of a mental. Well, I don't really get a drain, but I'm mentally working. He's more physically working.
Are you guys both? Is he also in Champaign area?
He's in a little town, not too far from here. It's called Ivesdale. It's about 20 minutes away, not too far from Tolono, actually.
And you guys closer today, are still competitive today, I should ask?
We're definitely still competitive, but we actually can have conversation now without getting in arguments.
Well, that's good. Do you celebrate your birthdays together?
We do. My mom and dad, they're just so great. They always make holidays special for everybody, and we enjoy a lot of family time. And yes, we still have to share a cake often. It's both of us. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
That's pretty cool, though. I think there's something special about having a twin. So I'm looking forward to meeting him someday.
I always told everybody I was 3 minutes older. I always had that edge. But he got the height.
That much wiser.
Yeah, my 40th birthday, our family and friends threw a big surprise party for all of us. And my mom, she's really into crafting. She's so good at it. And she made me a t-shirt that said, "I'm 3 minutes older," with an arrow pointing to him. And his t-shirt said, "I'm 3 inches taller," pointing an arrow to me. So,
Do you have a picture of you two wearing that shirt? Are those shirts?
I think so. Yeah, I'll have to find it. Yeah.
Please, and we'll include it with the show notes in the podcast. I'd love to put
Okay.
that up. That sounds
Sure.
so cute. So your first job outside of detasseling corn, you worked at a pizza restaurant, right?
Yeah, well, first I worked at a fast food in high school. All my friends worked there. It was kind of a goof-off job. It was a Hardee's. I'm not sure if they have them out there.
Yeah, well, I'm aware of them. They're Carl's Jr. here, but Hardee's, Carl's Jr., same company, yeah.
So somehow, in between all the sports that I was involved in, I found time to work a few hours at this place. And I will never forget, there were a couple guys in my class. They were always coming around, and they would love to go through the drive-through backwards. So instead of coming in, they reversed the car and coming backwards, and always caused a big scene. But I only worked there for maybe like 2 years, just on and off, like through all my other activities. And
Were these guys doing that to get your attention?
yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Did it work?
Not really. I mean, we laughed and had fun, but
Sounds like you've always had work ethic. I'm always, curious with entrepreneurs and successful executives and talent and so forth about their childhood, because is it kind of, driven in them from the get-go? I can tell you with me, I always really was kind of driven. I wanted to build things, whether it was small businesses or be involved in different activities. I was not one to really kind of sit down and veg out, if you will. And it sounds like you were the same way. There wasn't much downtime at the Parks household.
that's right.
And from the pizza restaurant, at this point, you're still young, but are you having any idea what direction you want to go in, or you're just really focused on sports and just kind of seeing where life's going to take you?
Even when I was young, I had some friends or family members that had their own businesses, and I always told them they might work for me one day. I used to say that. Like, I'd say, "Hey, maybe you'll work for me one day." And
they're like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah. I was always driven. Like, I didn't really have it in my head that I would work for someone else. Obviously, getting started, I was doing little stuff here and there. And out of high school, I worked at a pizza place. The one I worked at the longest, all through college, it was called Monocle's Pizza. So anybody who's from the Midwest probably knows or heard of Monocle's Pizza. It's popular. I think they only have about 30 or 40 locations, but it's super good pizza. It's similar to Donato's Pizza, which I have a really good friend that runs one of those out in the East Coast. Her name is Christina Vogel. She is also very entrepreneurial spirited. She's one of my best friends, and she had gotten into the pizza restaurant. We met at Monocle's Pizza, and then she journeyed off to Erie, Pennsylvania, and she opened up three
franchises. Wow.
3 franchises, and she's been like the number one female business owner out there, and it's just been exciting to see her do that. But yeah, we met at this Monocle's Pizza, and it was really a great place to work. I mean, I worked short hours. I made a lot of money. I zipped around and waited a lot of tables. I enjoyed it, actually. Like, while I was in school, it gave me the flexibility that I needed. It was great.
Sure. And I think those customer service positions are so incredibly important. I think they help shape you and, when it comes to running your own business, because I think so much of what we do is customer service.
It really is. And I met a lot of great people, those years that I worked during college. I had a lot of regular customers that would come back, and there's one family that would come in. They were poor, they didn't have they were always a little rough around the edges, and none of the servers wanted to wait on this table because they never tipped. And I would always take the lead. I said, I'll go wait on them. And I every week they would come in, same time. There was 5 of them. I waited on them week after week, and I didn't get a tip either initially, but I was always nice to them. I was always kind to them. I always, helped them with what they needed. And that was not the case with the other servers. Anyway, they came in one week and they started leaving like $10 tips, $15 tips. And my coworkers were like, what's going on? And I said, I've been consistent. I've been nice. They started coming in and asking me to wait on them. And I just, I feel like that's how it's been as I've gone along in my career with these websites. I mean, not everybody is, graceful initially, but, we're always nice to them. And, I think it comes back around to you.
What a great lesson. Thank you for sharing that story. There's so much to be said about doing something for the sake of doing it as opposed to doing it for money. And if you do something because you love it and you just focus on being really great at it, the money will follow. And I think that's a great story and lesson. So you get involved, and maybe this is because of your mother. You had mentioned that your mother was really into crafts, but you've got a knack for fine arts and graphic design, and you get into the University of Illinois. And you're only one of 50 students that are accepted of thousands that apply. How did that all happen? Well,
I started at a junior college here, Parkland Junior College, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do initially. Out of high school, I wasn't sure yet. I played basketball for the junior college. I'm still into the whole sports thing. And I took a bunch of general classes. And one of those classes I took was an art class. And my professor said, hey, you should get into graphic design. Your stuff is really great. And I said, what is graphic design? I didn't even know at that time. And they told me that the University of Illinois was, at that time, the number 2 in the nation accepting applicants for the graphic design school, and kind of caught my attention. They were educating everybody, and they said, oh, well, it's really hard to get in. You have to build this big portfolio, and then you have to apply. And I was like, okay, well, that's what I'll do. I enjoyed it, and so I did. I spent a couple years at Parkland. I built up a portfolio, met a lot of great people, and then that's when I applied to the U of I. They were taking 32 people a year, but they took 50 initially for interviews. And I'll never forget this either, because that list of 50, it was posted on a wall inside one of the buildings. And I remember going there. I remember walking down this hallway, and I went up and looked to see if my name was on the list, and I saw a name that looked like mine, but it was all misspelled. And there were, a lot of names that looked kind of goofy on that list. And I thought I didn't make it. I thought for sure I didn't make it. But that one name on that list, it looked like mine. And turns out it was a misspelling. So it was my name. And
when did you find out that you officially got in?
I think it was for the interview. The first 50 that were on that list all had to go through an interview process.
Oh, I see. So you were a finalist, but you still weren't in for sure.
Right. And so at that interview once I found out that was actually my name on that list, I remember, getting my portfolio that I had worked so hard on for the last few years and getting everything together. And I remember going into this interview, and there were 3 people sitting there. And one of them just so happened to be one of those regular customers at Monocle's that I had waited on. Yeah, I was shocked. His name was Rob Springfield. He was such a nice guy. He was one of our professors at the U of I. He was really great.
And he was instrumental in you getting accepted.
Well, I don't know if it was all my great service at Monocle's or if maybe my work was good too, I hope.
Wow, that's amazing. Another phenomenal story and lesson. Yeah, I'm sure your work was great. Don't want to discount that. I'm sure it was fantastic. But here's someone that came around or partly because you provided an amazing service.
Yeah, he was such a nice guy, and he was one of my favorite teachers. He became a favorite for a lot of us, actually, and we're still friends today. I bump into him. He lives around here locally, so every now and then I do see him. He's excited about the success of our business, and it's cool.
So you're going to school, full time, obviously in a very prestigious program. You're still working throughout all of this. Mm-hmm. And you only missed 2 classes in the entire duration of the 4-year program. Tell me a bit, where does this work ethic come from, and how were you able to burn the candle at both ends and get through it like you did?
Well, actually, they said we could only miss 2 classes. It was such a, they only took, so many people, 32 people that year. And they told all of us up front, if you miss more than 2 classes, you're out. So I did not, I was obviously made it through to the end.
Jeez, so they were going to cut you. Sorry, I misread that. So if you missed more than 2, you were just booted from the program.
That is correct, yeah.
What were some of the things in the curriculum?
Well, we did a lot of computer stuff. It was just coming about. So, I started getting into that, learning some Photoshop, learning InDesign. I remember working on these elaborate books in the InDesign program, software, Adobe Illustrator. All of that stuff was just coming out. And it was software that you had to buy and install on these computers. Now it's software that you can license, like a subscription basis.
Right.
But all this stuff was brand new. It changed so fast. It was a lot of design, a lot of pen to paper, really,
Sure.
Working with materials. I took pottery, I took drawing. I did a lot of hands-on classes during those years. It wasn't until I think my last year was more computer focused. And then coming out of that, I told myself, when I graduated, I wasn't going to wait tables anymore. I was just doing that to get through school. And I remember they were prepping us for, our next step. They were having us meet with other businesses, and some of them were local, some of them were in Chicago. We would go up for these little art fairs and see what these companies were about. What type of design did we want to get into? There was all kinds. You could go into packaging design. You could go into fashion design. It was endless. I had met this great guy, and he was in my last year in college. He had also graduated from the U of I a couple years ahead of me, and he was doing some programming. So I knew all this design, and he knew all this programming, and we had met before I graduated. And that is what kind of kicked off, I think, the next phase of my life. Before I graduated, we connected, and we were figuring stuff out on the computer. And one thing led to the next. I remember we were watching a commercial on TV. It was a car dealership commercial, and up came the website, and we got online, and it was not that great of a website. But it was all new. This was back in 2001.
Sure.
The internet was just coming about. But I remember him and I pulling that website up and thinking we could do better than that. And then it was a dealership. It was in Champaign. The dealership was called Champaign Automotive Superstore. And the owner, the general manager, his name was Steve Oldfield. And I remember us getting in the car, and we went over to this dealership. We walked in, and we asked to speak with Steve.
So you drive over there, complete cold call.
Completely, yeah. Didn't even call him. We just drove over there.
I love your confidence.
Yeah, I remember going in the dealership. We asked to talk to the general manager, and we told him we saw his commercial, and we wanted to build a website for him. And
because the one he had was terrible.
Right. We could do better.
What did he say?
He said, well, what have you done? And we said, nothing. And he said, no. Yeah.
So you guys are fresh out of school. You show up at this car dealership. You ask to talk to the general manager. I'm shocked that he even saw you in the first place. So you guys get into his office and then proceed to tell him that you can build a better website than what he currently has.
Yeah. And he said no. So we left.
What was that feeling when he told you no?
Well, we were convinced we were going to build that website regardless. We came back. I think we came back several times. We came back. We kept asking for him. We became his friend. The guy I met decided to buy a car. This went on for months. he bought my friend here bought a car from this dealership, and it was after that moment the general manager said, I think I'll give you guys a crack at the website, because we were very persistent that we could do a better job than what he had. And so that was it. That was the first website that we built. I think we got $5,000 for it. And when he said yes, I remember us both saying, okay, we got to figure out how to build a website.
Walk me through what you have inside this confidence that allowed you, or gave you the strength, I should say, to continue to come back. Because I think most people would, first of all, to go there in the first place and do a cold call takes a lot of guts. And then to be told no, I think at that point, most people are going to leave with their tail between their legs and never come back again. Where does that inner strength come from to go back again and again and again?
I think it's that competitive thing I had at a young age, just wanting to be great, want to be better, want to show how we could improve, believing in that, believing in something. I believe anybody can do anything. And I've had that thought, since I was very, very young. If you believe it, if you think it, you can make it happen. You just have to be persistent.
Were those kind of ethics that your parents taught you growing up?
I think so. I mean, they were both hardworking, and we wanted something, we had to earn it, whether it was from an allowance or from this detasseling, or even our first car. I believe we both bought our own cars. We earned every dollar to buy what we wanted. That definitely came at an early age.
That's a lovely story. I appreciate you sharing that. I think it's incredibly cool that you eventually got the business, and it shows the importance of tenacity and not giving up, not taking it personal, that sometimes you're going to get a lot of no's before you get a yes. And I think it's certainly a great leadership quality within you to do that. And so you get this business, you build him the website. I'm assuming he was really impressed with what you guys ultimately, you delivered a much better product than what he had currently had, correct?
We did. I mean, it took us a while to piece it together, but we did it. He was happy. He was working with the local radio stations. He was doing a lot of advertising with Illini Radio Group here in Champaign. And when they saw that, they immediately said, "Who are these guys? We need some help." So we got an opportunity right away with radio stations, which has become our biggest niche, with our business.
That's great. So he's advertising in a local cluster. Mm-hmm. They see the general manager there, salespeople see the site that you've developed for the car dealership, and now they're really impressed. Mm-hmm. And they ask you to build websites for them.
Yeah. There's a guy, Gary Saladino. He's a marketing guy at Illini Radio Group. He's still there today. Okay. He's become a great friend of ours. They've had several general managers over the years, but Gary, he's loyal. He's loyal to the company. He's a nice guy. He's somebody that we became friends with as well. He had worked with Steve Oldfield as well, the car dealership guy. But yeah, I remember spending a lot of time right here in Champaign, going over to Illini Radio Group, sitting down with that group, finding out what it is they were having trouble with and what did they want. And when we first built a system, like today, it's a whole evolution of where it was when it began. We started to build websites with their own control panels. But then when we realized there was a lot of them, it made no sense to have all these different admins. So we kind of evolved. We created one admin with different websites attached to it. It just evolved. But Illini Radio Group was really where we got started in the whole radio niche of things. And they were great.
Were you a fan of radio prior to this, or just kind of, it was neither here nor there? Because most of the people I interview on the podcast, such as myself, we just, grew up, we loved radio. But you're different. You really didn't, you kind of fell into the business because you ultimately built a great website for a client of a radio station who then introduced you to radio.
Yeah, that's spot on. I mean, it kind of fell in our lap, I think. We did. We built the 4 or 5 websites here for the local station. And once we completed that group, they were part of Saga Communications. Their sister group over in Springfield, which is about an hour and 15 minutes away from here, they wanted websites. So we're like, okay. So we built sites for them. And in between, we did a lot of mom and pop businesses around town. I mean, it was hard.
Are you advertising at this point? Or are you just basically cold calling people and word of mouth?
Word of mouth, cold calling. And it didn't come immediately. Like, we had to get other jobs. This wasn't just cutting the bills.
Okay. So this was a side hustle really for a while.
Yeah, it was. It took a minute. I remember opening up the phone book and making those cold calls to local businesses and telling them, like, hey, you're going to need a website. This is what we can do. And,
a lot of companies still at this point, do I need a website? Is it important? It wasn't really integral to their commerce.
Yeah, I mean, they were not, some people didn't even know what a website was yet. It was that new. I remember getting a hold of the Chamber of Commerce and getting a list of all the local businesses here in town and surrounding areas. And on my cheap old printer, I made a flyer and I printed hundreds of flyers right off my printer. And then I took an envelope and then I self-addressed all these envelopes for like local businesses and mailed them out, a couple hundred. But from that, we got 3 jobs. It was several hundred. 3 jobs.
Direct mail. They always say that direct mail has like somewhere between a 1% to 3% effectiveness. So I guess there you go.
Yeah. One of those jobs was the Beef House in Indiana. I think a lot of people may know what that is. There's
is that
still
like a steakhouse?
It's a steakhouse. Yeah. It's a super great steakhouse. They are still a client today. Almost 20 years they have been.
Get out. Do you have a copy of that original flyer that you designed? Because I'd love to show that to everybody as well.
Gosh, I'm not sure if I have that. I will dig around. I may.
I think that's great. Mm-hmm. So you're doing direct mail. You're calling. What are you doing right now to pay the bills? Are you still working at the pizza restaurant?
No. When I graduated in 2002, that was it for pizza. It was, I was all in. I believed that I could make a career out of building websites. And I was all in. I basically picked up that phone every single day and I sent out letters and I sent emails and I just worked day after day after day, they would trickle in. I paid my bills. We paid our bills with websites that trickled in. And we made it happen.
How long did that go on where you're just kind of barely making ends meet to the point? Was there a moment where you're like, oh, I've made it now. I'm making a decent living. I can afford to pay my rent. I can afford to, pay my car payment. Was there a defining moment or did it just kind of gradually build to that?
I think we gradually built to that. Several years of that, though. Several years of repetition of the same thing, of trying to get the next job. When we built those websites for the Saga group, the radio stations, and then we built one in Springfield, and then a couple more trickled in. We had 43 Saga radio stations at one point.
That's amazing.
And I think there was a conference somewhere, but those folks went to a conference, and it was MJI Interactive had got wind of what we were doing. They were out in New York. They then later became Triton Digital. But they were getting wind of what we had created. We were integrating a lot of their news content within our websites. They asked us to fly out to New York. So off we went. We went out to New York and sat down with them, and they looked at what we had created, the system for radio stations. And they wanted to make a deal with us and sell our product. And that probably was the moment of like, this is really becoming real, because now we're working with a company that's going to sell our services that we had started to create.
So effectively MJI, which is now Triton, wanted to syndicate you EnvisionWise out to more radio stations. They'd saw what you were doing for Saga and from there, things just kind of took off, I guess.
They really did. That's when we got introduced to what barter was, because we didn't know at that time.
It's quite an education in and of itself.
Yeah, I mean, they were saying they could sell our websites for barter, and we were like, what's that?
Sure.
And they did. They sold a lot of sites for us, a lot of radio station websites. But it was interesting because people would call, and I would have these conversations with them, and then I'd be like, okay, I'm going to send you over to Triton, and then they would do the deal, and then they'd come back to us to build the website. So I found myself, still doing that sales pitch the whole process. They were great in getting us out there, and they had a lot of people on that side, but that really kicked us off in the radio industry, working with them.
And you guys, what year was this?
I was thinking about this earlier today. I think it was about 2005 or 6 that we started working with MJI. And
so still pretty early. I mean, the company, you guys had really kind of founded the company in 2001, 2002, something like that. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're really off and running 4 or 5 years down the road.
Yeah, we were. It was becoming explosive, really. I mean, everybody.
Now, are you bootstrapping it at this point, or did you take investment dollars or borrow money, or how did you fund the business?
We never borrowed money.
That's amazing.
We just, we worked from home for a long time, up until literally about 5.5 years ago, we worked from our home offices.
By the way, that was when working from home wasn't cool. Now it's cool.
Yeah, it's like exactly.
So funny how things turn around. Like you're at one point you're trying to build a company. You're like, man, I cannot wait to get out of my dining room and into an office. And now everyone wants to be back in their dining room.
I know. I put all this energy into a great office, and we love our office, and we like working together. But yeah, it's like the world flip flopped on us.
It did completely. Same thing here.
Yeah.
Same thing here.
Yep.
How did the name EnvisionWise come to be?
Well, it was those early days. I was, before I graduated, when I met my partner at the time. I remember standing in my living room, and once we had gotten a couple websites under our belt and we were working on it, I remember like just doing this. Like I know the audience can't see us, but I had my hands up to my eyes and I was like looking forward. I can envision this is a future. We kept saying that, envision, and it just came out EnvisionWise. Like we were trying to envision the future, and we thought it would be wise. So something like that is really where we came up with the name.
What ended up happening with your partner in the business?
We got things kicked off and we were up and running, and it was around 2005 when we had made a great relationship with Triton, and we started to work with other people. My partner, he had an interest in making movies. He wanted to be an actor. He had some other interests and other passions, and so he kind of shifted focus into other things that he had desired. And I was just all in on our business, and I just kept cranking away day after day and continuing to build that. And he kind of went his own way, which was completely fine, and we worked it out. And
were you at this point just on your own, or did you have some team members around you to help with, I'm assuming, a lot of increased workload with your partner now leaving?
I did. We had hired a new programmer. His name was Mike Crum. He's very talented. Joe Moore, he's one of our other lead programmers who jumped on board with us, and he's still with us today. He's been with us about a decade. He is also extremely talented. He is the brains behind a lot of our systems and our engine, and he works his butt off with us, so we're so grateful to have him part of our team.
That's great. And he's still with you?
He's still with us, yeah. On the front side, we hired a lot of people here and there along the way, and some have come, some have gone, just trying to figure things out. And now we have a handful that work with me every day at the office. They do a great job on the production side and support side. I couldn't be more blessed with my team. We also work with the U of I and occasionally have interns come in and do work with us as well. And we all get along so well. I'm an easy boss. I really am. I'm flexible. And I believe as a owner, if you establish good relationships with your team, that they're going to work hard, because they want to. They enjoy it too. I show up every day with them, 8:00, and we have great communication, and I think it makes a lot of difference when you're kind of involved with them.
I agree completely. I think so much of a business's success, virtually all of it, is dependent upon the team that you have around you, and certainly their passion, their dedication, and expertise. Very, very few businesses are able to operate in a vacuum and be completely self-centered around the CEO. And you've obviously had a tremendous amount of success. You're a female-owned and operated business in a largely male industry, radio and broadcasting. What is that like?
I like it. I do like it. I get on these Zoom calls sometimes, and there's like 30 guys on there, and I'm like one of the only females, and I'm okay with that. I feel like it's easy to talk to guys. Sometimes women are very opinionated, which is a great thing. I mean, I'm opinionated, but it's easy to talk to guys. And for a long time, I just had guys in my office, and that was it. All guys worked for me. But now we're growing, and we have a couple women in the office too, which is great. Mix it up a little bit.
So I think you did always have a way with charming, I think, everyone. If you go back to these stories of you delivering pizza and the family that didn't have a lot of money, and they end up tipping you excessively because of the amazing service. The professor who you treated so well and helped get you into such a prestigious program. And then the guys that would drive their car backwards through the drive-through of Hardee's just to get your attention. So there's certainly something very dynamic about you that people gravitate towards. Is that something that you feel like you were born with? Is that something that you've worked on throughout your life? Are your parents like that?
I just think that if you're nice to others, it will reciprocate. You treat others how you want to be treated. I think building trust, and personal relationships with your friends, with your clients, if you can build that trust, it's going to reciprocate. I try to be someone that I want others to be as well. Like, try to be kind and compassionate and understanding. Like, sometimes we don't know what's happening, in someone's life, and things come up all the time, and I think you got to be flexible, no matter what. I mean, this pandemic is a great example. We've had a lot of clients that have been put in difficult positions, and they've been with us a long time, and we work with them. We don't necessarily need them to drop our service, because they're having, a difficult time. We try to figure out a solution that's going to work both ways, So I did a lot of that in the last year just to maintain the relationships that we've had for a long time.
It's amazing that you do that. And I think your ethos is very similar to what we try to do here at Benztown. I think that's probably why we gravitated towards each other as much as we have. You have built just an incredible company. You now oversee thousands of websites across the country, largely in the radio industry, but you also service other industries. Are you still doing like automotive, for instance, and restaurants?
We do some of that, mostly, geared toward radio, but we do have websites for dealerships and restaurants and some other mom and pop businesses, some realtors. We've built tools for all these industries so that they can manage their business daily. It's a great. I'm very proud of our little digital empire that we've created, and I'm so excited to be working with you guys and getting it out there more. It's a wonderful product that we have. And
likewise, the suite of products you have, and we've been talking largely about websites, but you guys do so much more. Fill me in a little bit about Text Me Man, because texting's become a really big topic this year especially.
Yeah, the Text Me Man is definitely a hot product. It gives our stations, or any business for that matter, the opportunity to build a database. They can contact with their clients in one swoop, send a message to all of them in an instance through our easy to use dashboard. We have no contracts, no setup fees. They can visit textmeman.com and sign up, and they get a keyword, and they can instantly promote that. And, you get your audience to subscribe to that keyword using our 78,000 short code. And with those lists that they compile, they can communicate whatever it is that they have going on, whether it's a contest or ticket giveaway, or they just need to inform everybody about, their next event that's coming up. It's really a great way to communicate. I know that, all of us get bombarded by newsletters and email, and it's a very difficult thing to keep up on, but all of us have a phone in our hand, and a text message is almost a more effective way. Not a newsletter is a great way to communicate as well, but a text message is instant. The audience is going to see that message come through.
So well put. What else do you have right now that you're seeing? Obviously, Alexa skills have become commonplace. Anything else in the industry from a digital perspective that you think is integral that stations should be utilizing that they're not? Basically, is there some missed opportunities, do you think, out there right now?
Well, you did mention Alexa skills, and I think that's so relatively new that, most people are familiar, but there are still a lot out there that have not jumped on that bandwagon yet. Alexa skills, Alexa, brought to you by Amazon. It's being built on the thermostats. It's being built into cars. It's being built in all these other devices. It's the number one smart speaker. Some people don't realize that if you have a custom skill, you now have a presence in the Amazon skill store. And there's a little bit of confusion because some stations think, I'm on Alexa, but they're actually on Alexa by default through TuneIn or iHeartRadio. There was a relationship established there, I believe, through Amazon and TuneIn and iHeart. You can come up that way, but if you really want to connect with your audience, it's wise to get a custom skill built so you have a presence. It's almost like downloading an app from Apple or Google Play Store. You can actually have a physical presence in an Amazon skill store, which allows you to connect to those listeners by telling them to open your custom skill. We have created an opportunity that allows revenue to be made with pre-rolls, with outros, interact with your listeners through song requests, and we're continuing to build additional features into our Alexa skills. So I definitely think it's one of the hottest items out there right now in the digital world.
That's a great point with TuneIn and iHeart. It is an indirect way that listeners can engage with the station, but it's not their own skill, and it's important to have your own skill. It'd be almost like kind of borrowing someone else's domain name. Would that be an accurate analogy?
It's called an invocation name. It's very similar to domain name. Having an invocation name, I guess, is comparable to a domain name. So having your own kind of locks you in, from and having that presence that can be found. And
ultimately, you can monetize that more effectively as opposed to going through one of the others.
Yes, absolutely. I had just heard the other day, I didn't get the full story, but there was an article about Alexa going to the moon. And so literally they're taking Alexa up to the moon. And so I told a client I was talking to, they need to get their custom Alexa skill because Alexa's on their way to the moon.
I'm so fascinated by the billionaire space wars. Jeff Bezos has his Blue Horizons and Elon Musk has SpaceX. And a year or two ago, I don't know if you recall, but Elon Musk literally sent a Tesla to space. So there's a Tesla floating around in space. And so I had no idea that an Alexa is going to be sent to the moon. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Jackie, what would be some advice for future entrepreneurs if you could concisely tell them a recipe for success? What would you say to them?
I would say, if you can believe it, you can make it happen. My friend bought me a sign, and this is like the best. It said, "Ability is what you're capable of doing. motivation determines what you do, and attitude determines how well you do it. And I have that hanging in our office. I think it's a great, and you know, I tell our team, we have these meetings every now and then, and I always tell them, let's change the world one website at a time. And that's what we do. But impossible, when people say it's impossible to do something, it just means they haven't found the solution yet. There's one thing to say it, and there's another thing to do it. And if you really want something, you just have to get out there and do it. You know, put your mind to it.
That story you told about going to the car dealership over and over and over again, asking the general manager to build a new website, I think speaks, says so much. And that tenacity, the dedication, your work ethic, and your customer service skills are just absolutely impeccable. And it's been just a pure pleasure to interview you. And so grateful for the time. And we're so proud and happy to be working with you in 2022.
Thank you. I'm so grateful that I think it was Matt Kellogg that introduced us from Empire Streaming last year. I think our companies are already creating a great synergy. I'm so excited for this next year. And Chachi, I'm honored to be your guest today. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Jackie. And thank you for bringing up Matt Kellogg, because we do owe him a big thank you. He's a fantastic class act and largely responsible for introducing us. So thank you so much, Matt. And Jackie, thank you again. And here's to a fantastic 2022.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to Chachi Loves Everybody. If you like the show, we hope you'll leave us a 5-star rating and tell your friends. Make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. This has been a Benztown podcast production, hosted and researched by Dave Chachi Dennis. Executive producer Kevin Horton, produced and edited by Tom Green. Show coordinator Juliana Parisi and Laura Keenan.